Now let's talk about evaluating and screening concepts based on the opinions of the market. So using our customers, potential users as the raters. And this is where very often the term concept testing is predominantly used for. Remember, what are we testing? We are testing concepts, and an activity that is really important and conventionally just done twice in the innovation process. Conventionally, we think we do it once after the front-end stage before we go into development, and then we do it hopefully again after development before we really invest into the launch, into building the manufacturing system, ramping up the product. However, in modern, so agile, design thinking driven, highly iterative innovation models, there's a continuous activities of testing with users in all stages of the innovation process. So the idea is here really to identify pure concepts that can be eliminated, but also to really estimate sales or adoption rates already for some business case calculation. And as said earlier, often that feedback we get is not just in a yes or no decision, but in a yes but. Oh, it looks pretty good what the customer said it, but there's still a but, so really let's iterate this concept again. And very often, especially in these more iterative approaches, we do this evaluation not on final prototypes or entire concept descriptions of an outcome, but also on the sub-elements of this. Let's say if we develop a car, we just will focus on the trunk design, we'll focus on the dashboard, and we test this individually as perhaps the overall car is too difficult to do complex for customers to evaluate. The object of testing is what we call here a product concept statement. So it's a statement about anticipated product features, form or technology that will yield selectable benefits relative to the status quo, to existing products or other solutions. So a simple example of such a problem statement is given here. A new electric razor whose screen is so thin it can cut closer than any other electric razor on the market. So if you use an electric razor, you may have understood this. You see a benefit in this? If this is all what you get, would you evaluate this concept positively? Is it something where you say, well, I would be willing to really pay more money for this kind of razor? Or would you think I need more information? This is very difficult to evaluate if I just have this statement. And that's exactly the art or the science of concept testing with customers, getting the problem statement right and then presenting it in the right way to consumers that they really can give us information that we can use. There are different ways of concept testing. As said, we can test statements or a working prototype, perhaps even. What we talk about here is doing it externally. But in some company, all these activities are done internally. We can do these qualitatively or quantitatively with larger groups and surveys. We can do this in the field, experiment with real prototypes that are working, or perhaps there are also some other things we'll talk about at the end. Or we can do this hypothetical, in a scenario, in a description. And this is how the majority of concept tests used to be executed. In a more novel understanding, we here move more to field tests. The process, or let's say what we want to find out, is as follows. Probably the first question, if you should, as a user, as a consumer, to evaluate a new concept, the first is it, what you think, does it solve a problem I have? Is this important for me? And if you say, yes, it is, then you probably think, is it believable what they say to me? So if someone is telling you a flying car, selling you a flying car, and it probably solves the problem of the traffic jam, but is it believable for you? And then you would say, is it unique? Is it something that I really would buy if I don't get it from someone else? And then, of course, you probably ask about, okay, but what will it cost? So would I adopt it if it comes with this kind of price point? And once we answered this, as a company, we also know perhaps something about who is saying yes to all these chain of questions and who somehow said no at one point and here went out of this. So from that, we also can know a little bit about the socio-demographics or other features of potential buyers, which is a very important piece of information to later place the novel product in the market. So concept testing is done with like 4 steps, and I built here again on Ulrich and Eppinger from their book Product Design and Development. So the steps are, we really have to prepare the concept statement in the right way. We have to select the respondents. We have to define the situation, how the respondents give feedback. Is it in a personal interview, in a field test, in an online survey? And then, of course, we have to analyze and interpret the results. So on the first one, probably perhaps the most difficult part, prepare the concept statement. The idea is really, in the end, that this statement is a customer value proposition, meaning it really has to describe the value of our novel concept to the customers. And part of a customer value proposition, and this is like a box, here you may use in your own work, try to start with really making this kind of sentence. And this would be the ideal customer, who is in this concept having this problem. My new product idea is whatever category, a service, a product that, now let's say what it's doing, unlike the major competitors. Can we do this for this video class? Think about it. What would be the value proposition for this video class? Well, for the busy young professional that wants to learn about innovation, who does, I said it already, don't really have the time to go to a full-time class, my product is a novel, innovative video class that comes with top-notch content, is hosted on a great interactive site, and shows you the contrast between old and novel approaches to product development, and it's unlike all the other classes existing in the market, dirt cheap, as it's hosted as an open MOOC for free on edX. So that was very roughly from my mind. You have to do it more sophisticated, but perhaps you can do it for your statement. So a good concept, it's important. It's not an advertisement. It was perhaps a mistake I just made. It came a little bit in an advertisement mindset. But it should be an anchor point. As remember, in a normal testing situation, you will not just present one concept to your customers, but several concepts. So really customers have to be able to evaluate the differences, and therefore they have to see the anchor. And we can do this in different formats. One format are verbal descriptions, a narrative format. And again, there are a lot of schools of thought here, and there's one big in marketing research that really says we should use just a verbal description. And a verbal description of a written concept statement has like a title, some inside opening description, a benefit promise, a proof that really there are factual elements to sustain the claim, and perhaps a tagline like a summary, a tweet of the concept. And this is really what can be applied here. So take your time and read this concept statement and see what comes into your mind if you should evaluate it. And our product we will use is a lightweight electric scooter that should help you to commute on the last mile. So the product is a lightweight electric scooter that can be easily folded and taken with you inside a building or on public transportation. The scooter weighs about 25 pounds. It travels at a speed up to 15 miles per hour and can go about 12 miles on its single charge. The scooter can be recharged in about 2 hours from a standard electric outlet. The scooter is easy to ride and has simple controls, just an accelerator button and a brake. And that's it. And now, is this enough for you to evaluate, is this a product you want to have? As this would be a typical written concept statement. An alternative to present you this. Perhaps in addition is, we could show you a prototype of the product. This could be a virtual prototype, like a CAD model, so it's only existing in the virtual space. It could be a mock-up prototype in appearance model, so we just made this out of cardboard, out of wood, but at least you can evaluate the dimensions of it. Or it could be really a working prototype, and we could give it for you for a test. And again, now compared to our written concept statement, you see some differences here on the good and on the bad side. Because of course, just the picture does not transport a lot of the important information that were in the written concept statement. However, with this appearance model, you already have some indications how this may look like, and perhaps this was what you suggested or not. A third alternative is really to have a scenario. And think about, instead of just a simple picture or simple text, you would see this kind of scenario slide. You would see already a brand now, the EOM Power. You would see a user demonstrating the product, compact storage, portable transportation, reduced transit time, really giving me already a value proposition, how we stand on this. And now I could show you again, tell you again to evaluate it. But perhaps if you look at this picture, which I took from Ulrich and Eppinger's textbook, you already see the problem. As instead of looking on the product, you may look on the user. You would say she has really ugly sunglasses, or you would say I really love her sunglasses. You may look in the pond and think about the water, or the office park where this was taken. So there are a lot of additional information on that kind of pictures that will somehow perhaps bias your evaluation. On the other hand side, you really see, well, now I really got it. Only with seeing this picture, I really understood the concept. So therefore, there are a lot of really thoughts to be spent on the concept. We can't go into more detail, but just take as a reminder here, this is probably the most difficult task in concept testing with consumers and customers, to really get the concept statement right. And often it demands a lot of experience. The second step then is to select a respondent type. So who are really the people we test the concept with? And those could be customers, users, obviously. It also could be dealers, exporters, perhaps regulators. It could be our own sales team. Often we don't really include our salespeople in this, but they have a very good feeling for the market. It also may provide important feedback. If possible here, we look for a representative sample. So to get a population of people which we survey, which really should mirror our target market as much as possible. And of course, this is more simpler for products where we already know the market, which are somehow improvements of existing products. For really novel products, often we really don't know who will adopt the product. So here it says for the sample size, it should be large enough that the development team's confidence is high enough. Well, this is a very subjective statement here on my slide, to be honest. And we can this confidence really also statistically by calculating error terms, and then we know some of the minimum sample size we have to do. Often we do multiple surveys with different objectives and sample populations. If we, let's take the scooter, already know it may appeal to very different groups. One user group may be students on a large campus, and they may have different expectations with regard to coolness, the aesthetic form, but also the price point of this foldable scooter, than the busy executives that will use it to navigate in large airports quickly and not miss a flight. So, and another important thing to remember at this point. In the video module, when we talk about adoption and diffusion of products, we speak about that there are two very different classes of adopters of a new product. There are the so-called visionaries, these innovators and early adopters, who are the first buying a novel product. And then there are the pragmatics, the early and late majority, the laggards, which makes most of the market, And both of these groups are really characterized by very, very different evaluation criteria and different perceptions of what is important of a new product and not. And therefore, it's really important if you evaluate a new product that you could now say, let's really focus on the pragmatics, as they are the markets. This is really, you see, if you add up typical numbers of the market side, this is where the money is. However, always remember, these people may not come to the decision to purchase if not other people, the visionaries, were the very early adopters, and they are able to showcase the product in the market. Other people can explore it, see it. It gets visibility. It's talking about in the press. But visionaries and pragmatics have very different evaluation criteria. And this is also important if you compose your sample of consumers rating your products. Just think a bit, and there are screening questions existing. Are these more visionaries that you have in your sample, or more these pragmatics? So let's say you really selected your respondents. Then it's about to ask them, to present them the concept statement and do this. In most instances today, it's either done in one-to-one personal interviews or nowadays real-time in an online survey. There are other things. We can do this in a focus group. We can invite people to the test center. We can do this over the phone. We can do it, start with a phone, follow up with a mail or online thing. But what's really often done today, and I think as it's so cheap and so easily, are online surveys. I present a concept and then ask the consumer on feedback. And what is it what I ask? Well, what I want to learn in the end is, would you buy this new product? And to evaluate this, I have to really know, can the consumer judge this from the statement, this picture I show, or does the customer have to touch and feel the product to really understand the benefits offered? And what's very often used is just this simple scale. From, I see this concept, I would definitely not purchase this scooter, or 2, I would definitely purchase the scooter. 1 to 5 scores, very simple. And then remember, here in this example, I just presented you one concept. However, in reality, perhaps in the first test, we would like to know, is there any market for these foldable electric scooter? So we perhaps just test this one concept. However, once we move on in the innovation process, we will not just compare one concept, but then we would have come up with, let's say, 5 to 6 different design alternatives for these electric scooter, all of them really delivering the basic value proposition expressed in the original concept statement, but realized in different forms. And this is what we really have to remember at this point, that often it's not just this one, but really this relative comparison of concepts. And to do this, there are also more elaborated forms like conjoint analysis being the first that can help us to also understand the differences between these concepts and the features of a concept that are driving the preference of one consumer towards a specific concept. So, but let's say at this point, easy scale from I would definitely not buy it to I would definitely buy it. Well, then we can analyze the results. Often we just take the 2 top boxes. So in this case here, people that would have ticked I would probably purchase it and definitely purchase it. We calculate how many of these people were included in our sample. We can multiply it if this was a representative sample with the overall market size, and we would come to our market. Not so simple. As we learned in market research and innovation, that in general, customers are overly optimistic. And what they say in these kind of market research studies is not what they will actually do in reality later on. So therefore, we have to calibrate the responses to match stated intentions with actual behavior. And it's a very important point, and a mistake a lot of startups make. As they just test people, probably family and friends, and they all are biased to our grandson's idea that this is a great idea. And then we develop the product, we launch it, and no one buys it. If you're a big consumer good company, or you operate in market segments where a lot of experience is in the product category, you can go to market research companies like Nielsen, and they really offer calibration tools. A very famous one is Basis by Nielsen, based on past data. So there you could say, if in the market research 60% of the people ticked the top two boxes, you say, well, in reality it would mean that out of these 60% people, 30% will really buy it. So your overall market is smaller, and then you have to decide if it's still big enough or not. Often also what you do at this point, you find out that not all customers are different. And especially if you use a little bit more elaborated method, you may find that for our scooters, there are people that are really driven by the comfort, and others are driven by fashion, by the coolness factor, by the style of the scooter. And so you actually, if you get a picture like this, they have some segments of customers that really balance comfort versus fashion, like here, and others, for those it's equally important, and others are just driven by the fashion. Then you'll probably need 3 products. Or you just make this number 1 product, but perhaps it's the most expensive one. So therefore, often what's done with the results is a cluster analysis, where we really try to understand if there are different market segments that have different expectations to our novel product. So, and also with this data we can interpret it, we can really now choose a concept, and if we just have a 1 or yes or no decision, or just 2, it's straightforward. But as I said, often we have different concepts, so this is why we engage in more sophisticated methodology normally at this point, to really understand not just why out of this, let's say 10 concepts, this was evaluated first, but we want to understand really what were the features in this concept that were driving with which weight this decision. And for this, we use specific statistical approaches like conjoint factor analysis and coming to a cluster analysis then in the end. We also may do at this point a very simple sales estimation by really estimating the demand of a product with a formula like this. But I would say for this I refer you to the dedicated video in the launch stage of this video class. We'll talk a little bit more about sales forecasting in more detail.